All right, Celeste, so we said that there's going to be some math involved, where now's the time for that math.
Yes, we
So
did.
what are you going to show us?
Okay, well, we're going to talk about proper fertilizer application on our lawns. For homeowners, when you get your soil sample results, they're usually going to be recommending to apply a certain amount of pounds of product per 1,000 square feet of lawn.
Okay.
So before we get ready to get out there and put our fertilizer out, we need to make sure that our spreaders are applying that fertilizer at the appropriate rate.
Right.
So what we want to do is a little on-the-fly calibration. You know, we're not going to get real technical with it.
Okay. On the fly.
On the fly
Okay.
calibration. So for example, say that your application rate is supposed to be 2 pounds of triple 15 or triple 13 per 1,000 square feet. We are going to actually test that theory to make sure that your spreader is working properly. You want to set your gauge on your rotary type spreader. This is a broadcast spreader, it's a rotary type, so that means the fan spins and disperses it. That's going to give you the best coverage.
Okay.
We want to make sure we set our setting at the appropriate rate. Your fertilizer bags usually tell you what rate to set that on. So that takes guesswork out of that. Next, you need to determine how wide the width of your spread is.
Okay.
That's easy to do. You can go out on the pavement, push a few feet, and see, measure the width of where you've thrown your fertilizer. We know that this spreader has a 5-foot width spread.
Okay.
So we are going to push it for approximately 100 feet. 100 times 5 is 500 square feet, right?
Yeah.
So that's half of 1,000. So our application said 2 pounds per 1,000. We've measured 1 pound of fertilizer, and we're going to push it across 500 square feet.
Makes
So
sense.
when I get to the end, if I still have fertilizer left, I pushed too fast, or my gauge isn't set properly, and we need to open that gate a little higher.
Okay.
If you run out before you get to the end, then you're pushing way too slow, or your door is way too wide open and you need to lower it, okay?
Okay.
So I think we're gonna do a little demo pushing it, and then we'll see where we end up.
All right, Celeste, what do you think?
All right, well, we got pretty close.
Pretty close.
We don't have much fertilizer left in the bottom of our hopper there.
Okay.
So that means that we got, we were pretty accurate as far as our speed. Like I said, there's a little left, so I may have been able to walk a little slower.
Okay.
Slow my pace down a little bit, and then we'd pretty much be on target. Like we said before, if you'd had quite a bit left, you want to slow your speed down considerably, and maybe consider raising your gate there that lets your fertilizer out as you walk. So I think that was a good example of how you can do a on-the-fly calibration right out in your own yard.
On the fly with some good junior high math, right?
There you go. There you go.
All right, well, let's talk about some other applicators we have out here. So you want to start with the spray?
Yeah, sure we can.
Okay.
Okay, lots of spray application rates, especially for herbicides and insecticides especially, are going to also give their recommendation rates in ounces per gallon.
Right.
But then they will specify that you need to use that 1 gallon of water over a certain amount of area. And that's where a lot of people get poor insect and poor weed control when they're trying to apply these, because they're not getting the appropriate amount of solution on the appropriate area. So one way that you could make sure that you're doing that properly before you actually mix your herbicide or insecticide in there is that you could fill it up with just water and mark off a 10 by 10 foot area. That's 100 square feet. And apply your liquid, or actually I would just go ahead and do a 10 by 100 as long as it's just water, and cover that area. And if you use your entire gallon, then you know that you are applying it at the appropriate amount. If you have some left, then that means you need to walk slower with your applications. So that's another quick calibration method for handheld, even backpack sprayers. And it's going to vary a little bit because you're always having to pump up the pressure.
That's right.
So you want to try to maintain, as a good even pressure as you can while you're doing that.
Because of course with these you can build up enough pressure before you get started, right?
Right. Yeah, but I mean it's going to decrease
go down,
as you go down. So you've got to take that into account also.
Okay. All right, now what about our hose-in sprayer?
Hose-in sprayers are great. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. You don't have to do really any calibration because it's doing it for you. This is the simplest kind that you can get. If it calls for 2 ounces per gallon, you put 2 ounces of chemical in it, and then you fill it up with water to the line that says 1 gallon. You hook your hose up to it and you start spraying, and when it runs out of material in your bottle, you've sprayed 2 gallons.
Okay.
So that's a pretty easy, straightforward way. There's some that have dials on the top, and you have to set them yourself.
Right.
So that gets a little more tricky.
I think I'll stick with that one then.
Yeah, me too.
No math.
Yeah, no math.
Right. Now, what about our handheld rotary spreader?
Handheld spreaders, I think, are great for homeowners that have really small lawns. Or if you're needing to do a spot spreading for, maybe you're trying to fill in some empty holes in your lawn with some seed. These are great for that.
Okay.
But you can also do granular fertilize out of them. And there's really no way to do calibrations with these. I'd say the most important thing to remember is that you need to always have a little bit of overlap, and that way you don't end up with bands that haven't gotten any fertilizer. It's really going to show up when that grass starts growing. You're going to have really dark green bands that have grown a lot, and then you'll be able to see the yellower tints from where your fertilizer didn't get applied.
Okay. And you know what? And that also applies for this as well.
It does.
Yeah, so you have to do some overlapping, to make sure you get good coverage.
And another tip on that is if you have an irregularly shaped yard, say that your lot's not a perfect square or rectangle.
Which mine is not.
No, hardly anyone's is. You probably want to do your perimeter first, and that way you make sure you get coverage in those odd areas, because we're going to be doing our applications mostly in vertical, horizontal lines.
And that's exactly what I do. And one last thing that I like to let people know is, look, if that fertilizer gets in your driveway, make sure you sweep it back up into your lawn, because you don't want that to go down the water sewage system.
Definitely.
I mean, there's fish at the end of that chain, so we definitely don't want the fertilizer to get down in there.
Yeah, make sure we get that fertilizer put on the appropriate area.
That's right.
For sure.
All right, Celeste, thank you for that demonstration. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. To find out more information on this topic, just click on the familyplotgarden.com link in the description.